So I'm going to talk about vision, and I'm going to talk about values, and it's something that a lot of companies, if you build a company, a lot of people will tell you have to have a vision, right? A plaque you put on the wall eventually. You have to have values. And I believe we found something different. Vision, there's a better way to do it. Values, it's outdated. This is a picture, by the way, of our leadership team. We have every year voted by the employees of the company, around 200 employees. We vote on who are the top 21 leaders in the company. And we found that that's the best way to find the most influential leaders within the business. And the reason why it's called MB21 is because we go to Martha's Vineyard, an investor gives us a home, big $40 million private beach property. It sleeps 21 people. So that's our leadership team. The benefit of some of the insights I'm sharing with you is I've been running the company since 1994, so 19 years now. Started this thing in college my junior year, turning 40 this year. And while doing it, we've had the benefit of tremendous tenured employees. Of the leadership team, we competed everything just for fun. We had drinking games and whatnot at the offsite as well, competing newbies against veterans. And the cutoff point we found to create 11 veterans against 10 newbies was over 5 years was a veteran, under 5 years was a newbie. And I think in today's business, any industry, especially in tech, it's very hard to find that kind of loyalty and sort of tenure in a business. So I'm going to share some of the insights and things that we found. I don't want to talk anything really much about us, but if you want, you can go to our website, nextshot.com. We've had great coverage. It's interesting because we didn't get covered till 2009 because we stayed in stealth mode until that point. But New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Tim O'Reilly's, great people have just said great things, so you can go see all that. So first disclaimer I want to make, and this is going to be really important, because most of the advice you will get as entrepreneurs will put you out of business. I want you to keep that in mind. Most of the advice you will get will put you out of business. And it's something that you see someone with more experience, much more successful than you, and you're going to take it word for word like a recipe. And you're going to just do it. And so this is a close friend of mine, Kerry Chesick. He founded a company and CEO of a company called Restaurant.com. He's one of the top mentors in Chicago. And he sent me an email recently, just kind of out of the blue, and I thought it just beautifully captured the danger entrepreneurs face. And he said that in many cases we have multiple mentors per entrepreneur, giving conflicting advice, resulting in the paradox of choice and slowing the progress of the entrepreneur. With that kind of experience, having experienced it himself, but also giving advice, I stay very far away from advice and only talk about my experiences, leaving the entrepreneur to make their own decisions as to how to plug that information into their world. Someone told me, this really wise guy who literally almost put Merrill Lynch out of business, Stan O'Neill was an investor in our company as well, who said to me, Charlie, you have to trust yourself, your own judgment. Every trade-off you know better than anybody else. Your situation, nobody knows better than you. And when you screw up, nobody will pay the price. Not your mother, not your father, not your friend, nobody except you. So learn to trust yourself. So with that, I'll share what I believe, and I truly believe is the right thing, but this is from my perspective. So first, when it comes to vision, what is vision supposed to do? It's supposed to create drive. It's supposed to give you that lasting drive that can drive you and the rest of the company. And it's a failed promise. This is the vision statement of WorldCom. I don't know if you guys know much about WorldCom, but our objective is to be the most profitable single-source provider of communication services to customers around the world. The most profitable. They went out of business. This is the value statements for Enron. Right? And what values are supposed to do, by the way, values, the promise of values is that you can scale your team to all conform to all the same qualities. Meaning the entire company will memorize, train, recognize everything in its value so they will have integrity, focus on communication, respect, and excellence. The CEO and the CFO go to jail here. It doesn't work. So I'm going to talk about vision, and I'll talk about the misnomers against vision, the most common mistakes that we have found, and I'll do the same thing on values. So when it comes to vision, the first thing people confuse is the notion of a bag versus a vision. A bag is a big, hairy, audacious goal. And a lot of companies like to do this, and I've seen actually charities tend to do this a lot, right? Our 10-year goal. My view is, a 10-year goal? Are you kidding me? You really know what's going to happen in 10 years? Make a placeholder for yourself. That's not bad. But the reality is, I kind of say that's bogus. No one can see 10 years out. If you can see 10 years out, you should be in a different business, and you go to Vegas. Because you have fortune-telling skills. You can't see that far out. But it's not bad to have a placeholder. But just realize that you're going to throw it away. A vision is supposed to be something you can visualize. It can't be time specific. It's practically unreachable. And if you do it right, the promise of vision is that you would rather die trying. That's how good a vision is. It lasts forever. So this is the promise of bags versus visions. The traditional method, and I'm challenging this saying, is it's outdated. Because if you look on your left, it was built, I believe, I don't even exactly know the origins of it, by venture capitalists, investors, and it was built with this notion of reverse engineering. People love to reverse engineer success. So one way to do it is to say, okay, let's think about the results. We want to find and build a company that's $1 billion company. So how are we going to do that? We need to create value so we can control our people to follow our orders well, and the vision needs to be there at the core so we can motivate everyone in the biggest way possible. There's a guy I met, I'll tell you more details, called Simon Sinek. He found a different way to do it. And he created a thing called a golden circle, starting with the why in the middle, how and what. And I believe this is the way you need to think of vision. Replace the word vision with why. Vision has too much baggage, it doesn't work. So why, as in to help other people. There's a notion of empathy that you need to have to innovate and build great products. How? You help your people take control. What ends up being what comes out the end, the outcome. Revenue and profits. So just kind of going to this again, reverse engineering, this is what someone came up with this. Maybe it was Jack Welch, right? The great guy who learned how to cut people and costs after the company succeeds. All the people sweat and blood to help you grow, you fire them so you can create margins to be bigger. It's terrible. So results, right? You're thinking, how do we create this exit strategy, $1 billion company, lots of revenue and profits? So we're going to create values, basically a scorecard. So I can actually score and measure every employee's performance against these and create rules, as in what they call best practices, right? And we're going to control our people, conformity. And in the middle of it, right, to make this really work, you need something that's going to inspire, motivate, create that big dream. So you can keep saying it, write it on your prospectus, on your S1s or whatever else you do. That's what's going to work. So Simon's a guy I got to know very well, become very close friends. And he came out with this notion of the golden circle. In the center of it, replacing the word vision, which has a lot of baggage, with why. The source of your drive. Why you will not give up, why you will die trying. Another way to put it is a lot of you will start to have why you're creating your company. I started my company because I couldn't pay for phone bills with a high school sweetheart. But I'll tell you, like, even after a couple years, that's nothing to do with why I go to work. Why you continue to work is going to be a bigger and more important question. So what drives you to not give up? Especially when you should give up and you can't pay rent and everything goes badly, what will drive you? How? So how do you help your employees actually become better people, be smarter, make better calls, better judgment, so you can start to trust them? Because they're pretty damn good, including trusting yourself at some point. And what? This is what will come out in the outcome. In the world today, most of us are too outcome-oriented. But you know how you get good outcome? You need to think about the process. I could sit here, all I want to think about the $1 billion I'm going to make, ain't going to happen. The process is what's important. So the outcome happens, which, by the way, is your evidence. If you're doing it right, evidence will come out. The data will come out. Anything you can measure, touch, products, any metric, anything quantifiable is a what. So the notion of figuring out this why is about motivation. If you figure out motivation, figure out purpose of a human being, you can unleash nuclear energy in human beings. Human beings have this amazing capability to do crazy, crazy things that are impossible. You do, and so do anybody, partner, employee you hire. That's what you're trying to figure out. That's what vision's supposed to promise. It doesn't do it. So I had the fortune of spending a lot of time with Simon. Simon actually gave a TED Talk. I encourage you to watch it. It's 18 minutes, much cheaper and free than his book, although his book is good. A TED Talk will cover it. If you don't want to spend 18 minutes, this probably sums it up, so don't even bother with that if you want, but it's a good TED Talk. 18 minutes.
What's his first name?
Sinek. S-I-N-E-K.
Simon.
So Simon. Simon Sinek. You can Google search him, you'll find him. I think of all-time TED Talks, he's like number 3 or 4 now, like of all time. It's a guy who came out of nowhere and just did this amazing talk. So Simon moved into our offices recently, and over the last year, I've spent a ton of time just listening to him do what he calls his magic trick. His magic trick is that he can sit with anybody here, doesn't matter who it is, on the street, anybody, and within 15 minutes, he will find your why. He will articulate it, Doesn't matter how big and brawny you are, he will make you weep like a baby. He will start predicting what happened in the past. He will start to talk about the stuff that you will care about in the future, and you will be crying like a baby in front of him. And I've watched this dozens and dozens of times. In the beginning, you're just like, oh, right? I've seen him do it with Fortune 1000 CEOs. I've seen him do it with like the 10th richest guy in India. I've seen him do it starting, and I'm like, how does he do this? And he says he just has this gift, this magic trick. So I don't know about you, but I have an engineering background. I don't believe in magic. So I looked for the pattern. I looked for what he was doing. And I started to learn more and more about it. And this is what I found that he figured out. Your why is formed by the time you're age 18. So you have to think, what happens at 18 for most people? At 18, you become an adult. You start to become independent at 18, which means that before 18, you were dependent on someone. Now that somebody is actually the source of your why, the source of your drive. A lot of us believe that if you visualize who you want to become, I want to become like Jeff Bezos, I want to become like Steve Jobs, you will one day become this great person if you can visualize a future version of yourself. You know what I found over 20 years running our business? When it gets really tough, you kind of give up on this fuzzy future vision made up person you come up with. You give up. It doesn't work. But there's something that matters when you go back. A lot of people say, if you have children, we do it for our kids, right? So I have a 4-year-old son, and so everyone likes to say, I do everything for my kid. The truth is, it's bullshit. You don't do it for your kids. Do you think the planet would look like this if we did it for our kids? With literally every resource, you're destroying everything that's going to help them succeed? Of course not. We don't do it for our kids. It's not forward-looking. It's actually backwards. It's not a future version of people, self. It's actually someone in your past. So you think about this and saying, okay, so what does that mean? Like, who do you do it for? Well, it could be a high school coach. It could be a teacher. It could be a father. It could be a mother, uncle, brother. It's one person. And that person is the person who sacrificed the most for you in your life. You are where you are today because somebody sacrificed for you. You were dependent on them, and they made choices. They made sacrifices, giving you extra time, making career choices, making all kinds of decisions to help you. And they gave up something big that was almost they couldn't get it back. Now, most of us think about this, and think about that person. There's one person that'll come to mind. You'll remember nobody, but you'll remember specific things that that person did for you. And what I found working with Simon was this, is that it's one person. It could be a mother, it could be a father, but it's one of the two, more for you than anybody else. And it's someone who sacrificed the most, but a lot of us say, you know what, that person doesn't inspire me, doesn't drive me, right? And there's a reason why we feel that. I don't want to be like them, right? My father was less educated, in my view, and doesn't speak English as well and can't present well. I don't want to be like him. You think about it and you're like, I don't want to be that person. And there's an engineer that we have in Boston. And his name is John Hilliard. He graduated from MIT, top of the class, one of the top engineers out there, arguably in the country. And I was telling him the story and this insight, and he started tearing up right in front of me. And I asked him, John, tell me what you're thinking. I'm thinking about my mother. Single mother. She raised me. And she gave up her career in the military to make sure I was going to be okay. But I always looked down upon her. She was uneducated. She didn't do the things that I wish she had done, and I always didn't want to be like her. So here's the insight that I shared with her. The world doesn't go backwards. The people that help you actually don't want you to be like them. And this is the big, oh my God. John Hilliard's mother did not want John to be like her, which is why she gave up her career. She sacrificed everything so he could become better. And she didn't do it because she wanted him to go and then go earn money and come back a couple of years from now saying, Mom, here's 10 grand in a suitcase for that time that you took off. It's not about money. She doesn't want anything in return except for you to become better than her. And once you recognize that, this person, this visual, will drive you. When you want to quit, when it's toughest, you want to think about the person who gave up everything for you. And that's why you continue. And that's where you're going to win. So for me, that person is my father. There's a picture of my dad. My dad is actually one of the most famous corn scientists in the world. He's been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize 3 times. Just got nominated recently this year for the 4th time. We grew up in West Africa, Nigeria, for 17 years. And he is the worst presenter in the world. He cannot write well. He can't present well. He has a stutter. He speaks too fast. He and I were carbon copies growing up. I'm the oldest of 3 kids, carbon copies. Stutter, speaking too fast. Public speaking, I would rather do anything in the world than public speaking. So growing up, though, when I was to go home from boarding school, I had to correct his papers. And if you ever have a scientist parent, I mean, my father was cranking out 800 pages. I swear it felt like overnight. And I'd have to read these technical papers to correct grammar, little things. It's exhausting. So I have this distinct memory when I was 14 years old. I'm sitting at my father's office, 5 a.m. on Christmas Eve, correcting 800 pages. And there's an article right on his desk. So I pick it up and read it. 14, and it talks about how Dr. Kim is one of the greatest scientists in the world. Awesome stuff, right? At the end of it, it says, but he'll never succeed. He'll never succeed because he cannot present his work. That's kind of tough stuff to read as a child. And then I watched, not before that, after that, for years, people trying to take advantage of my dad. I will write your applications for you, write your papers, but I want half the credit for your 30 years worth of research. Ethics were too high, he always said no. Everyone trying to take advantage of it. So when I turned 24, it's the first time I raised a lot of money, multi-millions for a company. And somehow in the process, even though I was a carbon copy of my father, I figured how to present. Maybe it's a 10,000 hours rule. I pitched 1,000 investors, had 100 angel investors invested 45 million. I somehow figured out how to pitch. And so that day I sat in my office and I was like, wait a second. Sort of this spiritual moment where you're like, maybe God built me to go back and help my dad. So I tried to leave the company. I tried to leave. I put 2 CEOs in charge at different times. They both tried to tear apart the company that was built. And then 9/11 occurred. We went down from 150 employees down to 4 people. I couldn't leave. We built it back up, 200 people now, but before I know it, 10 years went by. 10 years goes by, so when I turned 34, 2 things happened that's interesting. One was my dad actually got very sick. He got a stroke, diabetes, health, energy just depleted. And my dad used to always say, if he had the Nobel Peace Prize, it would be like a megaphone for him to share his cause. And at the same time, I met a billionaire investor who said, I only buy art from living artists. That was a great comment. Putting fuel behind people who are alive. And so I thought about the Nobel Prize, and as much as my dad wanted it, it was a trophy on the mantle is how I saw it. And I started to come up with this little phrase. Idea of doing little things, a lot of little things. Because when it has to be little to you, if you're giving money, you have to have a lot for it to be little to you. If you're giving advice, you have to have a lot of good knowledge before you can give it. To do many little things so that others can do the great things they're meant to do. My dad drives me the most. When I want to quit, and I think about all the things, why he would skip lunch, save 50 cents to make sure full scholarship I go to all the schools I went to, it's because he did not want me to turn out like him. He didn't want me to have the same challenges he had. And the day you realize that, it's an awesome thing. In fact, Simon suggests you should get a little trinket, something really cheap that reminds you of this person, so that when you're ready to give up, you hold it in your fist and you make sure you do not give up. So that's what will drive you. It's a person. Going to values. So we did it all wrong, and for many, many years. This still isn't our office. We have values, we have figurines, again, 7 values, we have recognition programs around it, we wrote a book around it, we even carved it into steel. Core values. And so we spent a lot of time thinking and understanding, where did values come from? Well, it came from the manufacturing industry. And you know where it came from manufacturing? It was so that you could drive conformity. Human beings were just another form of the machine. And in fact, I don't know if you know this, but universities were built as a feeder program into companies. This is why school desks look like manufacturing. It's probably why the education system is so broken. It was trained and built for another generation. Well, the world changed. It became a human capital economy. In the first phase, agriculture, land was the most valuable thing. Then came machines. But it's different now. You know what happened when it was machines? Conformity was important. Machines need to run in unison. Every metric, even still measured today in the stock markets, comes from the wrong industry. You're measuring metrics on your number 1 asset, which is your product, your systems. What's the number 1 asset in most companies today? Almost every CEO in the world, no matter what field and industry, will say, it's my human capital. My assets walk in and out of the door every day. Well, who's measuring the metrics in human capital? In human capital, by the way, in a knowledge business, conformity is death. You need diversity. You need to be different. So when you look at what's being measured in the stock markets and tech companies, page views, click-throughs, everything that you would do to measure machines. But who's measuring human energy? Who's measuring how much my employees are growing in the course of a year? Who's measuring how fulfilled they feel, how happy are they, how engaged are they? Who's measuring all the metrics that would be the right metrics if you truly believe this was your number one asset? It's got to change. So there's a well-known psychologist, Carol Dweck. And this is something that I found. I think she spent a lot of time giving this book mostly to child psychologists, but totally applies, especially to most of us. The fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. I don't know if you've heard of this, but the fixed mindset notion, and people believe they're kind of one of two, right? Fixed mindset is that I am who and what I am. I am smart at this, meaning there's an ingrained and unalterable level of ability. Overall intelligence or skill level is fixed. You can't evolve, you can't grow, you can't change. And guess what, when it doesn't work, you're a victim. You're helpless, you've been wronged, right? I'm not smart at this. I can't code. I'm not meant for pitching businesses because it's not my first language. I have a stutter. Whatever it is, you believe you cannot grow and get better. It's bullshit. Every time I read an article written by some rich billionaire talking about how founders should be replaced, right? When's the right time to leave your company and be replaced? I cringe. You should never be replaced. You should be able to grow and learn how to do it. It's like almost saying, when should a parent of a family be replaced? Now, mom, I've outgrown you. I need a new mom. Mom with more skills, more background, a professional mom. Right? It's amazing. It happens to you. Some of you maybe, but you can grow. The growth mindset is that you can always get better. Incrementally, no matter what, you can get better. So we spent a lot of time thinking and understanding this in depth. The way we translated this was to a simple formula with the help of Simon. And we summarized it as teaching, because teaching is a higher standard of learning. So let me explain to you. We call it better me plus better you equals better us. And we found this is a fairly universal formula to all human beings. It always starts with yourself. You have to start selfishly. Everyone who says, you know what, I'm all about you, I'm all about helping others, right? You have nothing to give. You have no knowledge to give, you have no money to give. You can give the shirt on your back and then you have nothing left. It starts with filling your cup. Your cup must overflow and continually overflow to be able to then help others. All for the purpose of helping others. Serving other human beings is why we're put on this planet for. But then, to be able to serve them, because you gave away a lot of your mojo, you got to go back and fill your cup. And there's a cycle, and there's a balance. You know how many of us will say, you know what my belief is? I'm just going to work and work until I make a ton of money. And when I'm flush with cash, I'm going to go to charity. I'm going to spend the rest of my life in charity. You know what happens to all the billionaires and millionaires I've met? The term of flush changes. What flush was at $1 million turned into 10 million. Next thing you're in a horse race to see who has more millions, more billions. And flush changes, and before you know it, by the time you get to charity, you become so self-focused and self-preserving of your own assets and who's going to rob me and whatnot, you don't even know how to give. You have no heart left. So, better me, better you. And why we say teaching is better you, but you can't teach unless you know something. So teaching is the standard that we look at. So this growth mindset, this teaching mindset, the better me plus you equals us. We spend a lot of time thinking about how things fail. I can't tell you how many of you will have this perfect business plan, this perfect team, and it still won't work. The odds are so against you. I shared a slide before in one of the Institute programs. The odds of you succeeding, and succeeding being simply defined as you'll make money. Okay? Besides your salary, you'll actually have some exit liquidity event of some sort. At best is 2,000 to 1. 2,000 to 1 at best, likely far worse. Now, those of you who think, well, you know what, I'm that gifted one at that 2,000, go gamble in Vegas. Because at a roulette table, it's much better odds. Much, much better. And I know that you're thinking, well, you know what, 37 people, is it 36 numbers?
Roulette? It depends, only one or double zero.
Yeah, so I don't play roulette, but you might be thinking like, 30-something people lost, I'm going to be the next one to win. That's what they call a gambling addict. I'm telling you, like, there's a higher chance that you're going to fail. So you need to understand how failure works. If you understand it, you'll prevent it. So I'm going to take you through 3 of the top things we have found. There's many more, but 3 of the top things in becoming growth-oriented and how you fail, or how you will likely fail. And by the way, as an entrepreneur, the #1 thing I've seen entrepreneurs, what they call burnout, is because you stop growing. In the beginning, you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm growing, I'm so great. Before you know it, you're going to realize that your career, your own knowledge is flat. You stop becoming a better person, you stop getting smarter, you're going to just be flat. It's what they call burnout. When you flatline, you burn out, and you quit. And you're going to say, please, someone else who's better, take over my baby. Right? You don't want to flatline. So #1 is fear. Fear prevents growth. When you think about fear, the #1 thing we all fear is we're fearful of failing. The 2 pitches that came were pretty good, but I wish you had taken a bigger shot and actually failed miserably, because it's week 1 of the program. You got 12 more weeks. Get better by then. What's the point of getting better now? Like, you'd rather score low because you took some big chances. Don't be scared of failure, because failure is your friend. There's a guy I met, and I've become pretty close friends with this guy, Josh Waitzkin. He's an amazing guy. If you don't know the story about Josh, have you ever watched the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer? It's about Josh when he was 6 years old. He became the world's best chess champion. He learned to play in Washington Square Park. #1 in chess in the world. But this is not where it gets interesting. The guy had a mental breakdown in chess and decided to quit chess at the peak of his career, and then decided to go after a second discipline, martial arts. Right? Chess, martial arts. And there's a special martial arts where every 2 years, the World Championships in Taiwan, every 2 years. And he said, I want to be #1 in the world in martial arts. Chess player, okay? He started taking every technique that he started to do to learn chess and applied it to martial arts. In 6 years, he became the world champion. He beat a guy who held the title for 9 years. The guy went and beat him and became #1. This is like a crazy story. Wrote a book called The Art of Learning. Of all the people I've met, I haven't met someone who understood the art of learning at this level of depth. But the #1 thing he'll talk about is what he calls investment in loss. It's an investment. Failing is an investment. Invest in loss. And you know what it will do? It will give you humility training. So this is what Josh said. Losing is always a crisis instead of an opportunity for growth. We must not avoid discomfort, but to become at peace with it. Build our instincts to always seek out challenges as opposed to avoiding them. Otherwise, one will be frozen in place, unable to improve because of fear. Frozen in place, flatline, burnout. So Josh's story is interesting in martial arts. He goes and to invest in loss. He goes up against this guy in practice who's 50 pounds bigger than him with 8 years experience. And he gets his ass, and this guy has ego, like big guy. 50 times a day he gets tossed, literally against the wall. The paint on the wall was chipping because he got tossed on the wall so much. I mean, he's getting bruised and beaten up. Most people would do that once. He does it for weeks, he does it for months. For 7 days a week, he goes and gets his ass kicked. Investment in loss. And every time that he got in the ring, his body would tense up. Right? That's a big guy coming at you so fast. How am I going to possibly ever win against this guy? Always tensing up. And the coach is like, relax. You're like, how? Are you kidding me? Relax? You can't relax. Well, one day, you know what happens? Something starts to change. Months later, he said, I stopped fearing him. I started realizing I can take the punch. I've been coming every day. I'm not dead, right? Started realizing I can take the hits. And as soon as the fear disappeared, he started to, #2, calm down. Started to have cool, collective thoughts. And as that happened, he started to see that there were patterns in what this guy does. He started to see his weaknesses. He started to see opportunities he never saw before. And as that happened, he took him down. And he literally started flinging this guy through the air. And the guy, who was this big guy, started talking about how his foot is hurting again. He never fought Josh again. And he says that that guy should have been a national champion at best, but never got there because he never could deal with losing. You gotta lose. When Josh played chess, his father would take him every time he's not in a tournament, playing against players who are better to get his ass kicked. He would teach him to lose. You find this in every industry, every discipline. Children who are raised, who win all the time, the reason why they choke at the most critical moments, they fear losing. They fear failure. And you know why underdogs always win? They're used to losing. You don't fear it. So it doesn't scare you. So they are calm. They're collective. They're like, I have nothing to lose. I'm telling you right now, you have nothing to lose. You got to get there. So the only way to do it is investment in loss. Invest in losing. Error number 2.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
If you get the tar beat out of you consistently, there's got to be something somewhere that's causing you to keep going on.
Your drive.
I don't know. Well, in his case, in chess, it was his father.
So I don't know what Josh's drive was to do the crazy thing of chess to martial arts.
Right. Where I'm going with this is, most people would give up. What is it in him that caused him not to give up?
I'll be honest, I don't know. But my guess is somebody. It's
Somebody or
some
something,
person,
right?
And that's why I started with your drive, the source of your why. Right? You need the ability to not give up. I can't tell you, creating a company, you will fail. You will fail a lot of times. It will be so miserable. You will think about your entire brand reputation, your life savings, everything going to hell. And the problem that occurs, by the way, is you will make it screw up because of your fear. You'll tense up, which means you'll lose before you even go into it. You'll make all the wrong calls. And the point is, the more you deal with pain and loss and failure, the stronger you're going to be because you're not going to tense up. You're going to make the right calls. You can train yourself to deal with fear. And the only way to do it is to go at it. It's like skiing. I don't know if you ever went skiing. First time I went skiing, I looked at a blue slope, and I was like, over my dead body, right? The idea of a diamond, right? Forget double black diamond. And I was like, over my dead body. I'm not paying someone to kill myself, right? Well, I started skiing. I got pretty good. I don't like it unless it's at least black or double black. You get used to it.
So would you argue that someone who plays, say like a Kobe Bryant who's competitive, who's played sports where they fail and win regularly, they're more equipped to deal with this level of ambiguity between fear?
So, you know the interesting though, so for example, on Michael Jordan, right? He's one of the greatest players in basketball of all time, right? And he's remembered for the last minute shots, right? He has made more last minute winning shots in the last few seconds than any other player in history. Nobody remembers all the shots he missed. He lost the game more than any other player in history in the last few seconds. You don't remember it.
So
He's not scared of it.
Are they more equipped than the average person who's been equipped to just go to school, get the A, work in a corporation?
You know, like I said, like
than maybe a sports.
of 3 kids in the family, I was the dumb one. I'm not even kidding. I could never get good grades. I always missed my flight. I never had my act together. I had the stutter. I talked too fast. I was bound for like nowhere. I'm the most successful now. And you know what I tell people? Like, if I can do it, you can do it too. It's bullshit if you believe that your DNA, God, wanted you, and you can win, but or you can't and someone else can. Get that out of your head. It's nonsense. If a guy who knows how to play chess could figure out how to go and win in martial arts, right? His is proof that, trust me, you can do it. And he did it in 6 years, which is unheard of.
But in games, you get to fail and win all the time. Well, when you go to work,
I don't know. I mean, you want to go and try to be martial artist #1 in the world?
No,
Of course not. Right? I mean, literally, that was as crazy as it is. Like, every discipline, the same theme comes through. The second excuse that a lot of you will feel, the I don't have time excuse, right? And there's a guy I'll introduce you to real quick. But the notion of time management, throw it away. It's about energy management, not time management. So there's a guy named Jim Lear. Again, he's been a very close friend of our company for several years now. And he created this new category that he calls energy management. the ability to engage no matter how depleted you are. And he defines, and by the way, Jim is the coach to world-class golfers, tennis players, NFL, NBA, Olympic athletes, top CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, the FBI SWAT team. I mean, the best of the best are going through his training camp. So we become very, very close. And I spent more time with him. This is the top thing that he figured out, which is that it's all about engagement. And he defines it as the acquired ability to invest your full and best energy right here, right now. So first, it's acquired. You're not gifted with it, fixed with it. You can learn it. It's acquired. And then you make a choice to invest your energy. So I'll give you an example. You talk about good parents, good mom, good dad who goes to all their kids' soccer games. You ever see a dad at a soccer game on his BlackBerry or iPhone nonstop as the kid is playing? The only time he looks up is when the whistle blows. The time is given. He's there. But who cares? He's not engaged. And all he sees is the mistakes. There's a common notion if you're married or if you're dating someone that you need to have date night, right? You ever see couples go on date nights? They don't even say one word to each other. They're sitting there looking at their cell phones both times. Both of them. Really? Check. Time. Time was spent. You think your relationship will get any better? Of course not. It's about engagement. Every one of us, we make a decision in every instance. Am I going to put my energy into this or not? Am I going to give it my all, or am I just going to kind of breeze through and check it off? Check it off. And we have a choice. And by the way, energy can be trained. Jim's reading this great book. It's around the fact that energy is part physical, part mental, emotional. You need to eat, sleep, and take care of your fitness. Eat healthy. You got to work out. You got to sleep. And those of you who are proud that you can stay up 3 nights and code great things, you know what? You need to train for those moments when you have to. So train getting sleep, exercise, and nutrition. You are a human being. You cannot cheat that system. Because when you are you're depleted, no sleep, feeling overweight, feeling I've been eating burgers and pizzas all day long, drinking Mountain Dew, candy bars, and I've never gone to the gym in a year or 2 years or maybe even longer, good luck when stress comes. You're going to make the right call. You're going to be calm. If you're completely depleted, you won't be. Now, I'll talk about the next area, which is where it happens. And then it's mental, too. It's amazing what our mind can do. You can tell yourself you can make it through. You have to coach yourself first. You have to learn how to talk to yourself. You can make the impossible happen. And these things work together, the mental as well as the physical. So error number 3. And this is interesting. Josh Waitzkin found that if you could eliminate the same errors in your life, in 5 years, anybody could become a world-class chess champion. In 5 years, if you could eliminate making the same mistakes twice. So that's near impossible, I think, for any of us. But the bigger problem is this: thematic errors. Not errors that are random, but thematic errors. These are the most deadly because you know what I had the fortune of seeing over almost 20 years? The people I love that I work with, making the same mistake over and over again. It was crazy how much of a pattern there were. They were consistently making the wrong call, not when the C's looked like this, but when the C's looked like this. And this was different by person. And that's the thing with education, with companies, it's about individualism. You got to bring out the individual strength. And by individual, people kept making the same mistakes over and over again. And everyone likes to think it's a technical issue. I can't code. My coding skills aren't good enough. My presentation skills, my Excel skills, my PowerPoint skills. It's not it. It's almost always a psychological issue. And the psychological issue is so hard to pinpoint. So we spent a lot of time working on this. What's interesting, by the way, this is some pictures from the Navy SEALs. They carry telephone poles. I mean, they get literally drowned in water. You don't know who you really are until stress hits. You know how many people talk about, you know how humble a person I am? Wait till all hell happens. How humble are you then? Or you know how to talk about, I'm such a giving person. Well, when you have nothing left, you want to give what you have. That's when the true character of a person comes out. Your true character score comes out under stress. In the Navy SEALs, they figure this out. They put people through this to figure out who you really are. Because only under stress can you tell what people are really made of? And by the way, that's only the starting point to get better. But you want to know where to start. So, under stress, you got to find your true score. So here's what we found as a pattern in thematic errors. So we call character imbalance. A lot of us like to think, my character is who I am. I am who I am, right? You can't change that. It's not true. It's like muscles. They grow and they shrink based on being exercised. Muscles atrophy if you don't use it. Muscles grow stronger when you stress it and then let it recover and then stress it more, it grows stronger. So a lot of people will say, well, I'm humble. You can't get humbler. You can't get grittier. You can't get more resilient. You can't get kinder. Of course you can. You can get better. And the other thing we found was they come in pairings. It's like a seesaw. It's the imbalance that creates the issue. So these are the top two that most people have. Confidence against humility. And the balance of confidence and humility lets you make the right calls, the right decisions. If you are overconfident and less humble, it's what they call arrogant. If you are humble but not confident, it's what they call insecure. An insecure person at the moment of stress will always make an insecure call. An arrogant person at the moment of stress will make an arrogant call. Maybe a simple analogy is tennis. A lot of us who play tennis are really good at the forehand, suck at the backhand. So what happens when it's game point, really critical point, and you're good at the forehand, you suck at the backhand? You will overcompensate, and you will move over to hit the backhand with your forehand. And a good player will cream you. Because that's your weakness. It's not the fact that, you don't have to be a great player, it's just that you're imbalanced. Imbalance is what makes you overcompensate to the dominant side. It's like having an arm that's really big in the right and weak in the left. You have to balance it no matter how weak you are. And when you're balanced, good judgment occurs. Because you can still win with your forehand, but you need to be good at both. I'll give you an example. So this is my assistant who's here, my executive assistant, Elise. And this notion of values do not help under pressure. So our 7 core values on your left. Full engagement, exceeding expectations, consistent execution, active learning, trust, collaboration, and tenacity. You're the captain of the ship at the moment of stress. You're going to remember all these 7? Figure out which one's going to help you get through this? I don't even remember. I made them up. I made up the values. I don't remember it. Not the moment of stress. We found out you have the ability to remember one thing. You need to come up with a mantra. So if, in Elisa's case, she was more humble than confident, her challenge was confidence. And what we found common as we started writing down and documenting the errors she kept making. You know the time where, I'm sure you guys all have had this. Something happens, and literally a second later, you're like, I should have said something. I meant to say that, but I didn't. That's a judgment call. You should have said it, but why didn't you? And it happens again and again, right? In Elisa's case, she wouldn't speak up. She had more information. She has access to the CEO office. She's part of the CEO office. She knew what to say in many meetings, and she wouldn't speak up. Why? Because she's 23 and she's an executive assistant. She wouldn't speak up. So we said, Elise, you must have no voice, right? You must be mute. You forgot to learn how to speak? So let's help you build your voice, like a little baby learning to talk. Now, what we found was a lot of people come up with mantras. They're very soft and fluffy, like a softball. Try harder. I will get better. Like, you ever hear a coach with a team who's demoralized and feels they can't win? Do they go in and say, guys, come on, you can do it, you can do it? No. I mean, if you ever see these coaches who are into it, they're like, this is fucking bullshit, right? This team is not better than you. You can do it. You have to be able to talk in a way that makes you say, I don't want to be like this. I don't want to be the person with no voice. And when you come up with that right phrase, we have people who, I have one partner whose phrase is idiotically enthusiastic. It's embarrassing. I have another partner who literally just says, I'm arrogant. I don't want to be arrogant. Like, you need something that's going to create a visceral reaction for you to change. At the moment of stress, the one thing you're going to remember to help you make the right call. And the idea is this. If you watch Lord of the Rings, right? You help your people, starting with yourself, learn how in the darkest of moments, when you're going to make the wrong calls, at the point of pressure, to have one thing to remember. Oh, sorry. Let me quit. You got to practice this stuff. Practice a lot. So when I say practice, this is a guy named Billy the Kid. So I had the fortune of learning how to ski with him. He's an Olympic champion. And so I get invited to this event by the New York Stock Exchange. It's a ski race. It's like an ESPN 8 or something. It never shows anywhere really normal. But so this guy, he's part of our 6-person team. We get a celebrity Olympic skier and 4 of us learning how to ski. So I'm like, can't wait, teach me, right? So he says, Charlie, the one thing I'll teach you is this. When you're standing and waiting for your friends, when you're standing in the ski lift, stand like this. I was like, come on, Billy. Like, how about turns, weight shifting? Give me something I can use. He's like, when you're standing still, stand like this. I was like, that made no sense to me. I was like, that was the worst coach we had in the whole place. Later on, I realized how genius this guy is. This is the exact pose you have to be when you're actually taking turns skiing. And his point was this. Practice is what you do when it doesn't matter. Practice when you're off, not when you're on. I'll give you another example. Poker players, right? You need to be patient. So you know what? They try to practice patience at the poker table. That's not where you practice patience. Go to the buffet line. Get really hungry. Find the longest line. Let people in front of you practice patience. You is you everywhere. Practice at home. Practice your friends. This is how you get better. You have to practice until it feels like it's breathing. It's so natural to you. And you will kick ass when it matters most. So what happened when we got all this right? Our turnover in headcount, we hired some of the best engineers from the top schools. It went from 40%. We had 40% because everyone was getting poached at double and triple salary. But in weeks, it went down to 0. It's been holding 0 for almost a year now. Leadership, people growing, what would take years started happening in weeks. Now, this other data point's early, but in 20 years, we've had higher revenue growth the last 20 weeks. Every single week has been a surprise in the upside. And there's no end in sight. With only 10% of the people driving that surprise, there's 90% still left. Still early. But the leading signs were strong, and the lagging results are starting to show. So kind of in summary, really quick, the best self. You need to know what will drive you. You need to understand that success is getting yourself to get into that growth mindset. Become a teacher. Help each other. Help others. It will make you better. Because when you teach is when you realize how much you don't know. And the worst thing that can happen for you, right? Invest in loss, energy management, character balance, and practice this stuff until it feels like you're breathing. So this is our best thinking. I literally put this together last night and this morning. Because I hate giving the same presentation twice. I feel like it's cheating the students. Because we just know more. And the idea I love is this quote I got from someone. Great teachers know it in their bones. It's tested in the trenches. It's the Boy Scout rule number 1. Be the example first. Maybe one last quote, which is this Colonel Murphy in the military. He got cancer. He found out he's dying in a couple months. His last words to his troop, this guy was a beloved guy by a lot of people. He went to them and said, you know, when it's time for you to leave this school, this job, or even this earth, make sure it mattered you were here. Good luck, guys.